Good evening, everyone. My name is Sharon Moreno, and I'm a family nurse practitioner. I practice in the great state of Texas via telemedicine and see patients physically in the Rio Grande Valley. We are Gold Rush Health Solutions, and this is Let's Talk Health. Tonight's topic is anxiety, and this is a very important topic for the night. I do have a special guest. I have Christopher Hinojosa tonight with us. Christopher, good evening.
Hello, good evening. Hi, everyone. My name is Chris. I'm a Master of Psychology and licensed professional counselor associate, and I'll be here talking to you all about anxiety.
Exciting. That's a really good topic, a very common diagnosis that we see in the Valley. Have you seen this quite often in your practice?
I do actually. Yeah, so I actually opened up CJHV Psychology, and I get to see folks for anxiety. I do treat anxiety as one of the prominent diagnoses that I am treating right now. I also have experience working in both community and acute care psych. So it's very prevalent diagnosis that we see.
And this is Christopher's information here. So if you're interested in booking an appointment with him, this is how you would do so. As we continue throughout the show, Christopher will give you further information regarding his business, what he does, what he's seen. But to start off with, this is how you would book an appointment with his business. He is CJHV Psychology, and this is his Square site link so that you can get an appointment or more information regarding his business. I do want to start with our legal disclaimer that we always start with. That's sort of run of the mill stuff. While that is being posted, again, I want to ask you guys for input regarding suggestions for topics. If there's a particular topic that you're interested in, I can always have prior guests come back, join us, and do another topic, a different topic, of course, or have new guests come in and do new topics. Now, another thing is if you're a small business owner and you do health related, you have a health related business and you're interested in promoting your business and giving some information to the community, I'd love to also have you on my show. So if that's something that may interest you, then please message me as well. All right, Christopher. So let's get into anxiety. Tell us about anxiety. Start off with what is anxiety?
So anxiety, I mean, and this is kind of one of the more controversial ideas that people have. There's a difference between like your everyday stress and anxiety, right? Anxiety actually was often seen as a very like life-saving skill. You know, if we were to go back in time and think about, folks back in the day that maybe lived in jungles and stuff, like the person that was a lot more anxious would be the one that kind of second guessed, like maybe we shouldn't eat that random fruit that we just found in the forest, right? And somebody else was the one that was a little more curious, maybe, or didn't have that anxious tendency and tried that fruit. And that's how we found out maybe that fruit was poisonous and probably not
Okay.
something that we should have been eating, right? So this was originally, it seems like a life-saving skill that like, hey, like kind of thinking a couple of steps ahead, like, what if I venture off into this and possibly run into some danger? Now, we are very fortunate that that's kind of not the life that we live, but we still hold on to those tendencies. We hold on to that anxious trait, right? So maybe we perceive things as a threat. And I say it like this because people who suffer from anxiety are living in those moments of like life or death and maybe not really experiencing a physical threat at the time, but their brain is very much feeling a threat or an impending doom. And when you put it like that, you're a lot more likely to respect what the person's feeling, because we live in communities that very often like play off those feelings, like no pasa nada, like, it'll be fine, they'll be fine, just shake it off, just walk it off, it'll be okay.
Sure.
And it's not always that simple, and it's not for like chiflazon. It's not just because you just want to create a attention for yourself, like you're really going through these feelings. It's a very real experience. The people that experience anxiety or have anxiety attacks, like they very, very much have physical responses to these emotions, and they need to be taken seriously because it's a very serious feeling. So,
I like that
stress.
example that you gave.
Thank you. Yeah, I really tried to set the tone with that. Like, stress is a natural response to a challenging or threatening situation that you're in. Like if you, and it doesn't have to be physically threatening, but it could be like work. Work is, you're challenged. And even worse if you're having a bad day at work. And you're like, well, man, like I might lose this job. Like that's stress, right? But anxiety, on the other hand, is more of a persistent, like disproportionate like reaction to a threat that is either perceived or it could be real. It could be that you're dealing with something that's actually like I might lose this job and I could lose my house, and how am I going to feed my kids? And it goes from there, and it's very, very real. And that's why it's like this is something that you really have to focus on, right? You can't just walk that off, right? But then some people have this level of stress for maybe going to the groceries and just like, oh, well, that's like more social anxiety. And right. And so even though the threat level is very different, to that person, it's very real. And that's what we always need to start off with in general to have this conversation, is like we have to make sure that we start with setting that foundation of like that we got to respect that person's experience is valid, right? Like it's whatever they're feeling, it's very real to them.
Absolutely. I like that example. We have two highs for the evening. So Manny says, hi, Sharon. Hi, Manny. How are you? Thank you for joining us. He's one of our faithful listeners. We have another one. B says, good evening, Sharon and Christopher. Good evening, B. She's another one of our faithful listeners.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
An example that I usually give my patients regarding this situation is uh, this, that anxiety or the response of fear is an emotion that is very normal when it's warranted. For example, if I take out a gun now and point it at your head, well, there's a very valid reason to fear for your life because your life is at stakes. But these particular individuals who suffer from anxiety, there's no gun being pointed at their head, yet they're perceiving something grave as such, and their body's in this constant fight or flight response. And so it places that constant stress on your body. Now your body can be in that place for small periods of time, but once it's extended, then it creates other issues in your body, which we'll talk about later on in the show. I love statistics. One piece of statistic that I got was that around 31% of adults experience an anxiety related disorder at some point of time in their lives. So, at any given point of time in their lives as an adult, they would have experienced an anxiety disorder. That's quite significant. That's one third of people.
Yeah, that's definitely worth going into like how we can help folks like that, because if it's creating more and more awareness for others as well. Like, hey, like people are joining into the conversation of mental health at like an increasing rate. I can say I've seen since the pandemic, it's been like a conversation had across the board a lot more comfortably and a lot more open than before, where people can actually say, hey, you know what, I'm feeling this and I'm feeling like I need to see someone about this, or I need to have a conversation. And I think that that's the best part, is that we're starting to create spaces where people can join that conversation more freely and more comfortably and say, hey, like I need some help with this. And there's nothing wrong with that. If I struggle with blood pressure, right, I'd go to you and it's like, hey, Sharon, I'm really struggling with my blood pressure. I'm having blurry vision. I'm having headaches. Like this is, it's starting to affect me. And I need to know what you think as a professional I should do about that, right? So we go see medical professionals for our, physical afflictions. and it's no different. Our
Absolutely.
brains are organs. Like, it's an organ itself, and it needs to be treated just like any other organ. And we do go see a professional for treatment of some kind when we're having issues that we need to address. And it doesn't mean that it's a one size fits all, and it doesn't mean that you're going to be like labeled or stamped with some type of like, oh, you're sick, or you're crazy. I don't like to use the C word, but it's very much what people, they're like, oh, I'm not crazy. I don't need to go see. So I'm like, no, it's not about that. You know what I mean? It's about that our lives are constantly changing, right? And we're going to go through things that, we need to just make sure we check in and say, hey, like, is there something I could do better for myself right now?
Sure. It's about feeling better. It's about optimal health. That's really what's important. So I also got and am aware that anxiety can manifest in a variety of physical symptoms. So what about the patient that we have that comes in constantly complaining about things like sleep disturbances, like they're not sleeping well, like they have digestive related issues, like they're bloated, like they're burping a lot, they're passing a lot of gas, they have tummy issues, they're constipated, they have diarrhea, or they have a bunch of headaches. Because we know that anxiety can manifest in a variety of physiological symptoms.
Very true. Very true. I love that you brought this up, because psychosomaticism, where your brain starts to create physical responses to psychological stimuli or things that you're going through psychologically, really, really throws people off sometimes when they're trying to seek treatment, because they're going to go to you and say, hey, Sharon, I'm really having these tummy issues, and I need to see someone about this, and then not really address at the core what's causing them. Right. So the amygdala, the part of the brain that signals danger, starts to activate when we have issues of anxiety. And this causes our cortisol hormones to rise and our adrenaline to start to react. And you start disrupting our natural rhythm, right? So basically, all that fancy words just means that we're just our body's like in fight or flight. We're like, oh my God, I'm stressed
Sure.
out. I'm in a threatening situation. And in that, you stop digesting, right? Your body doesn't digest the same whenever you're constantly, in threat mode and like, I got to protect myself. You don't sleep the same, because how can you relax? Your body literally thinks that you're being like chased by a tiger right now, and you're trying to tell it
Sure.
to go to sleep because you got work in the morning. And it's like, so, your body is not on the same page with your brain at the time, because you're like, okay, logic, I'm telling myself like, I gotta go to sleep because I got work at like 8 a.m. And your body's like, no, dude, we're running from a tiger right now. I don't know what you're talking about. And so those kind of things start to add up too. It's not just because we're no stranger to like, oh, well, I'll just drink this tea or take this whatever to like put me to
Yes.
sleep. So we start to like put band-aids on things, right? So
Sure.
we band-aid one symptom and it starts to add up, and before you know it, we're here with like, you know what, Sharon, I haven't slept well in a week, and now I can't eat because my sleep disturbance is out of whack, and I can't seem, no matter how many coffees or energy drinks I take, I can't seem to wake up. And we start causing other issues down the road because we never really addressed the anxiety that started all of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we always have to be vigilant on, what we refer to as frequent flyers. Why are people coming in frequently? What are we missing? What's really going on? What is the root cause of these physiological symptoms? And you tend to look at patterns. When you know your patients well and you're observant, you're like, something's just not adding up here. You check, you keep checking, you keep evaluating, and you just realize that there's nothing wrong with that physical part. So something else likely is happening. We have a couple of comments here. So this one is for you, Chris. Patricia Castillo says, super proud of you, Chris. So
Hi,
you have a
Patty.
super awesome fan there. And we have a question here. B says, what are the different types of anxiety? So she wants us to talk about the varieties of anxieties.
So there are a few different types of anxieties, and there's some that I think people don't right away associate with anxiety, right? So we have like our general anxiety disorders, right? That's just kind of the more broad spectrum. Like, okay,
Sure.
like I just deal with general anxiety, and this can be like I'm just at home and I get anxious for whatever reason, or and some specific situations, right? Like I'm at home and my parents always screamed when we had like the music too loud, or I played video games too loud and I didn't hear them. And now as an adult, I can't have the music loud in the house, like, because it's something that from the previous environment that kind of stuck with me, and now I have this set anxious pattern. But then we have like our panic disorders. We have panic disorders, and these people struggle a little more with maybe like, like panic attacks. And some have their triggers, some don't, some can come at spontaneous times. So those are something we kind of have to individualize a whole plan just for them. That's the kind of like, okay, what are your triggers? And let's identify that, because not everyone can identify their panic attack triggers, right? And that's not
Sure.
their fault. It's just because a lot of this, we are a sum of our experiences, I like to tell people. So like it's not about right and wrong. I think if you take away right and wrong, like the right way to do things, and even with parents, specifically with parents, I guess, there's a lot of anxiety of like, was I the good parent? Was I a good dad? Was I a good mom? Did I do it like the right way? It's like, it's not about the right way. It's just, we are some of our experiences and how we were as children, how our parents treated us, and how we treat our offspring. Like, it all adds up to who we are today. And, if you take away the blame and just try to understand like that we have these habits, right? We have these experiences that we kind of got to overcome to move forward through this anxiety, and that helps a lot. We have social anxieties, we have phobias. People don't realize
Phobias.
phobias
Yeah.
fall under anxiety disorders. So that's another one, and that's a whole other branch on its own. I would love to talk about
Yes.
phobias. Yes.
A lot of
Uh,
phobias.
PTSD is a big one. I did my internship practicum and worked with Tropical Texas, and I got to help reopen their drop-in clinic, the Veterans Drop-in Clinic. We have a lot of
That's great.
yeah, I know we have a lot of veterans. I did get to do some work with them that really, really helped out. And PTSD is a big one. PTSD is a big one for anxiety. I feel like people don't also see that automatically as an anxiety disorder.
Yeah. Wow. That's really good. Yeah, there's a big, I see a lot of times veterans self-medicating with alcohol and drugs and things of that nature. What I've also seen is when they do go for medication, that they're kind of like over-medicated initially, and so they're kind of like zombied out. They stop taking medications, and so they kind of go back to like self-medicating. So it's a whole big broken system in that aspect there. So I'm
Yeah,
glad that you're working with the veterans and hopefully making a change with them. They're a population that really need a bunch of help.
of course. And definitely, I have a soft spot, really trying to make sure that we put the differences in understanding of the veteran experience as to like the the anxieties that they go through are going to be very tailored towards their experiences in the service. And a lot of times, I'm glad that you brought up the self-medication, because self-medicating does happen across the board for a lot of people. There's people that are being told like, oh, you're just being an overthinker, or you're just being too flat, or you're just being spoiled. And these people often turn to self-medicating substances, but they use either like street drugs or alcohol, and
Yes.
to do that. I'm not here to shame anyone. More than anything, it's just
No,
more like
no.
educating that like they do this, and then they try to go finally get to see someone, and then they feel like they can't be honest. So and this would be more in your scope about like the actual prescription of the medication. But when
Yeah.
someone tells you, hey, you know what, like um, I'm not doing anything. I don't do anything. I'm clean as a whistle. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't whatever. And then you start them on this, low dose medication because, based on their report, they don't do anything. And it's like, well, maybe if you would have told me that you do XYZ substance, we could have started you on a different dose that would have actually had an
Sure.
impact on you, because at this point, like, I'm trying to mop up the ocean with a little mop, and
Sure.
it's like, it's not the same. Like, you got to let me know what we're really working with so that we can really address the issue. And that's why I do believe psychiatry and psychology like work so well in tandem, because we can look into the effect of the medication, report back to the medical provider as well. Like, I do like to work with my patients, like psychiatry providers. It's like,
Sure.
yeah, and I do a lot of them actually don't even have specific a psychiatric provider. They do have like their PCP, and with their permission, we'll collaborate with the PCP and be like, hey, you know what, Chris, I just upped their Lexapro to 20 milligrams, right? How are you seeing that? How's the effect on their anxiety? How's that affecting their depression? And I,
Yep.
report back to them like, hey, you know what, I'm seeing this is this, or hey, you know what, it's already week 4, and this is an SSRI. It's supposed to have already peaked at this point, and we're not seeing much improvement. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. Interdisciplinary is always the best approach. I know when I worked clinic especially, I would talk to, like physical therapy or whatever. I'd get on the phone and I mean, I know you're seeing my patient, or they would call me. Hey, I'm seeing your patient today. I just want to let you know they look great. Or no, I'm not noticing much difference. They look this, and you just have to feel comfortable talking to different disciplines you know I mean, every discipline is the expert in their discipline, so
I will say something that I really, and this is more just from personal experience working with you, actually, because you and I have collaborated with patients on patients back
yes.
from my nursing days back in from the pandemic era and everything.
Yes.
We got through the pandemic together, and that's one of the
Yes.
things that, like, you've always been the type of person that you saw the whole picture of the patient, not just like that one spot that you were concerned about. And I think when someone has a PCP, where they go see the FMP, that really is like the center part. That's not just like, it's not just one specialty. I think they don't realize you're the hub that makes sense of everything. Like, you got to look at because every specialty is going to think that their stuff is the focus. If you come to me,
Sure.
everything is going to be psych focused. I'm gonna think of everything being psychological, brain focused. And you go to the cardiologist, it's going to be, everything cardio, heart, circulation focus, and so on and so forth. And we all go back to you, and then you make sense of all of what we said. Like, you put it all up there and weave it into a really nice story, so we know we're actually taking care of this patient holistically. So, and that's
That's
kind of one of
exactly
the.
what's supposed to be happening. But I've seen, see, because what happens is psych will see the patient, give medications, then cardio will give the patient, give their medications. And sometimes what one's given them overlaps with the other one. And so it's our job to be like, oh, whoa, whoa, this and this interact with each other, or, these those. So either I have to get on the phone and say, hey, I know you ordered this, but this doctor ordered this, because they're not seeing what each other's giving them. Only I'm seeing the big picture. Either I make the changes or I call them and be like, okay, this is what's going on. But some primaries are not doing that. They're just like, well, if this doctor ordered it, it must be great. If that doctor had ordered it, it must be great. But we're the ones who's supposed to put all those puzzle pieces together and make sure everything's safe. If not, then patients just end up with bags and bags of medications. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen patients on 2 PPIs, 2 NSAIDs. I mean, just double, sometimes even triple. And I'm like, these are cousins, these are sister meds. Let's discontinue this, let's discontinue that, and let's just, fix this picture.
I'm gonna steal that. I love that. But these are cousins. Yeah. That makes it so much easier to describe, because polypharmacy is a thing. And like I said, I've always, and it's funny because I'll put in consultations to like cardiology. They're like, "What is this? Psych doing? Talking about?" I was like, "No, like, I might think one thing. I see so many people on that use like blood pressure meds for anxiety." Right. I've seen like
Sure.
clonidine for anxiety. I've seen it. So I'm just like,
Yes.
so I'm like, look, I might just say like, so it might not be helping their anxiety so much. I was like, but make sure that you ask, if this is by a cardiologist, make sure you ask the cardiologist. I was like, just plain and simple, the meds that are used for maybe off-label use, secondary use. I was like, you might
Yes.
want to check with all affected parties before you stop taking this medication. I was like, because if I tell you, hey, you know what, this isn't doing so great for your anxiety, but you turn around and you start, having blood pressures of 180 over 100, we're gonna have issues.
Yeah, I've seen Clonidine for ticks. They use it for like
Mhm.
different ticks and stuff. So I don't know about anxiety. I don't believe I've seen it for anxiety, but I actually have used it myself for certain ticks,
Uh-huh.
and it has been effective for the majority of the people, but
I
it's
had
not
one.
always effective.
I had one case that was
So
for anxiety, and I was like, "Oh, that's odd." But then they're like, "Well, it's kind of like hydrochlorothiazide is used for the same thing, and it's also it can be used because it's a." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's different. That was news to me." So I'm learning a lot of what with way people use it, and I'm not trying to recommend it. This is not my recommendation. It's
sure,
just talking
sure,
about
sure.
things that I've seen. But I was like, but that's where I'm like, you know what, this is obviously happening in conversations that I was not a part of. So make sure you get with whoever's a part of this team. And that's why I say that's why providers like you really earn my respect in that regard, because it's like it's not just what you think. Like, you're literally the person that will go and say, okay, well why, give me the other side of the story so I can understand, so we make sure that we make it all make sense.
Sure. I got some comments for you here. So I have Graciela. She said, Graciela Hinojosa, she says, very interesting information. She says that. And then I have a Rosie who is a great massage therapist. She's got hearts and kisses. Rosie, if you need to be on my show or want to be on my show and talk about massages, we can definitely have you on my show down the road. She
Massages help a
also
lot with
says,
anxiety.
there you go. She also says, Chris, so proud of you. Glad to see you on here. So apparently she knows you too.
Mm-hmm. And shout out to Graciela. The first one is actually my mom. So thanks, mom.
Oh, okay. There
For,
you go.
yeah, I'm
Well,
sure. I'm
thank
sure
you
she
for
has.
joining us.
I'm sure she's there with my dad watching this right now. And my parents have always
Oh, how
been my
sweet.
number one supporters from
Beautiful.
everything. From everything, I cannot be more blessed. I mean, with that kind of
Good.
support, I can reach the moon and back twice fold.
Well, you have a great son, so you have much reason to be very proud. And then Rosie says, we go way back, Chris's
Yes.
family. So
Chili's
yeah.
family. I was a bartender at Chili's for like 12
Really?
years.
Oh my God.
Yes. So she goes back way back from the Chili's family. So yeah.
Okay. There
Yeah,
you
so I
go.
appreciate it. So and
Good
like
stuff.
and like
So
even
you have some
earlier,
followers.
yeah, even earlier, like Patty and I worked together at Fox Hollow.
Where?
At Fox Hollow. Patty earlier,
Okay.
like
Okay.
congratulated. Yeah, we worked together at Fox Hollow. So yeah, this is
Good
it's beginning to
stuff.
see some familiar faces here. I appreciate everyone for checking in.
That's really
Uh,
nice of them to come and support you.
Oh yeah, I'm so blessed. I've met some wonderful
Absolutely.
people along the way, and I think like that's
Yep.
the one thing that you can never give back to people is their time. My mom used to always say that, like your time is priceless, because that's something that you can give to someone that you can never take back.
Yep.
So,
I agree.
and if anybody spends 1 second, appreciating you or thinking of you or just enjoying your time, like it's appreciated, because they can never get that time back and give it to anybody else.
I agree.
So
Time is
I,
absolutely priceless. And you have another one. Man, Chris, you are getting so much love here. It says, Miss you, Chris, Easy.
yeah,
And this is from Mariana GM.
yes. Hi, Izzy. Hi, Mariana. I love them. We worked
Man,
with
well,
us from my first nursing job at the nursing
there
home.
you
Was yes.
go.
From then on, we've been great friends. I actually just saw Mariana like a week ago, actually.
Good stuff. Guys, subscribe and like our show. Thank you for joining us and supporting us.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone. Everyone's showing up. So
Yeah, they're even making you blush.
a little bit, a little bit. It's definitely making my day. It's definitely making my day. So
That's
it's
good.
gonna make
That's
my
very
whole
good.
week.
There you go. So you can skip one of your counseling sessions, not to the patient. I mean your own personal
Yes,
counseling session.
yes. I'll skip my own check-in. Like this has been everything. It's given me life for the week. I'm good.
Oh,
So
here's mother bragging on her son. She says, "We are very proud of you, son. Dad and I are listening in. Glad you always stay humble and help out the community as best as possible. Mental health is real." And hello, Miss Sharon. Okay, finally I feel some love from your people, Chris.
yes, yes.
I was starting to feel jealous here and unloved.
That's what we'll do. Next time we'll have just like a little tea time. We'll just have a little tea time just to like let the comments roll in and we'll just keep talking.
For real, right?
Mhm.
We just got a fountain of Chris comments.
I love it. I love it.
All right, so what else?
Let's see. So I know one of the things that I do talk about a lot. I do specialize in folks that actually struggle with ADHD. Right? People don't realize that ADHD is an anxiety disorder. So
Yes,
I myself have ADHD, and I do the unmedicated version, right?
sure, yes.
So that meant my parents put me in everything under the sun so I could get tired, because I will always have I'm like a little energizer bunny. I mean, the joke's always that like I plug into the wall like an iPhone at night and I just power on, and in like 3-4 hours I'm good to go. Because I'm just perpetual energizer bunny. But one of the things that I do try to teach about is that like your whole brain chemistry is different. Like the way that you view the world, the way you go through the world is a little different. And that's one of the things that I think that people with any type of neurodivergence really just want that understanding, because we live in a world where we kind of have this one set neurotypical way of seeing the world. Like you should be able
Yeah.
to sit still, you should be able to just do this, and I think the more that I touch on it with my patients, with the clients that I have in private practice, I start to see how much that people don't realize that there's a difference to how their brains work, right? And this comes in a sense of more of like hyperfixations, right? So people who struggle with any type of like neurodivergence like hyperfixate on certain things, and as kids it usually is like a game or like a toy or like maybe like a show. And so I teach about how to break these things, like so like for me it was a book, right? I actually really like books, and even before when I have like my books I'm currently reading like right in front of me that I just finished one and I have another one already that I just started. So granted, that made me really hard to reprimand as a child, because what are you going to do? Tell a kid not to read? Like, it's kind of
Yeah, yeah.
hard. Right? So I wasn't much of a TV person. If you leave me alone, I put on piano. I play piano, but I put on piano music and I'll start cleaning or something, right? So, but if you have that drive, it's to actually do something at the time, that little hyperfixation. Little like tidbit, little community tip here. Um, just do it. Do it for like five minutes. Like if you have to, like I have to play this video game, I have to watch this show. I think planning is key. I think we live our lives through this like idea of like I need to stop myself from wanting to do this, or I need to like really, and like if you force yourself as someone with anxious tendencies to do something and not feed that little, at least a little bit into that fixation, you're creating more anxiety and you're creating more mental deviation where your attention span is going to be completely off. Right. So, and I feel like this is something that we didn't really see much any improvement on, because we live those like rigid 8 to 5 office work until maybe the pandemic, when everyone was kind of like working at home.
Yeah.
And you realize like productivity was through the roof, but also you could take 5 minutes to watch a little bit of Will and Grace or whatever you put on the TV, or you just put on a little bit of whatever you're watching in the background, and you kind of give yourself that halfway. Maybe you can't do that in every office, but maybe it's putting on music. Maybe it's taking a minute to read a little bit of a book. But I think that one of the concepts that I would love to teach folks in the community right now is that there's ways to cope around it other than like abstaining from joy or abstaining from where your brain wants to go. Like if you want to like, if you fixate on something or you're currently interested in something, feed that little interest and then go back to doing what you're supposed to be doing. Like, let it be work or whatever. And obviously keep it safe. I'm not telling you to be in front of a patient if you work in healthcare or anything like that. Like, I'm not telling you to like deviate from what you're doing, right? Make sure it's safe and ethical. But,
Sure.
try to keep those habits. People who like, I know growing up, I was always made to feel like having ADHD was going to be like, not the downfall, but was going to make it harder. Like I was never going to be able to focus. I was never going to be able to sit still. Chris can never shut up, which I still can, but don't worry about that.
It's working out for you. It's working out for you.
Yeah. That's why I was like, get into a profession where you do most of it by talking and you're great.
Yeah.
So, a lot of that, I felt a lot of that. And I think that caused a lot of shame. That caused a lot of me not like focusing on my own mental health because I was already being spoon fed the idea that these anxious tendencies would be the downfall of me. Right. And I think I personally didn't get to feel like I flourished until I realized like, hey, like I could take control of that myself and make it work for me. Right. So little things that I noticed is that people who have anxious tendencies are great multitaskers. Right. Your brain's already running on like 10 tabs open. So if you can harness that ability and be able to work on so many things at once, and I'm not saying do delicate, critical things all at once. Don't, please try one at a time. But, that's where you start like, I'm here and it's like, hey, I have that report to do. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to do this. And before that, I have to respond to Sharon because she's already sending me an email. So let me respond to her while I'm working at this. And you start honing that ability. It makes you really good at multitasking in high stress environments or high paced environments, in a work setting, in a school setting. That made me really great at studying. And where I was in busy spaces and still able to read or still able to do homework. And you start to learn to like, this isn't a crutch. This is your superpower. You just got to learn to hone that in and like kind of, put it to good use, make it work for you.
Absolutely. And Danny has a comment. She says, I'm usually on hyperfixation when it comes to my creative drive. Scheduling is what I try to do, but it's the hardest to follow through.
Scheduling, like, okay. So like I'm every year, and this is like since school, like this is like since middle school, I was like, I'm going to get a planner and I'm going to schedule everything and I'm going to put it on my planner. And I am the worst at it. I was like, it's up here. I'll remember it. It's fine. I am the worst at it. But what I found that helped is there's always going to be something that you like to do, right? Like, so I can be deep into reading or doing whatever I'm doing, but I'm always going to have like a little break where I'm going to get up. I'm going to get a couple of Twizzlers because I'm a snacker. I snack, right? So I'm going to get a couple of Twizzlers because I like to get snacks. And that's where you have to associate whatever it is you're trying to schedule with something that comes natural to you. So let's say your creative drive, makes you, if you like to like work on like little trinkets or like you like to make bracelets, right? Like something like a hobby of yours, right? So if that's the case, or you work on a painting. So every time I want to go get a snack, I'm going to eat that snack working on my painting. Don't force yourself to go back to something else that what it is. But, like I see this a lot with work. I worked from home for a bit. And I would, try to come back and like have to force myself to work on this report. Well, just, you have your snack or whatever it is, and then you go and work on your creative outlet. I had this conversation with someone who struggled with like more of like hygiene issues, or like, I forget to like brush my teeth. I'm like, okay, well, every night before bed, you have to take off your contacts, right? So how about before you take off your contacts, you brush your teeth. So let me read the next one. Making a plan. I'm great at creating and planning. It doesn't happen the way I hope. Okay. Would you be able to just put in maybe a little bit as to like what happens instead? Do you feel like you forget about the plan? That would be just a little bit of information on that.
Sounds like she creates a plan,
Mm-hmm.
but it
But it just
doesn't go
doesn't
the
have.
way she
Yeah, and
go the
that's
way she
where
plans
more
it.
of the execution of it. That's where,
Hmm.
like I said, I try to tie it to something that comes innate to you, and
I
that's.
tell people that about medications when they, like for
Mhm.
my weight loss patients, when they
Mhm.
forget to take either the nights or the AM medications, I tell them, okay, well, like the brushing your teeth. I'm like, well, what do you do every single night? You brush your teeth? Okay, well, if you're going to brush your teeth every night, put your pills next to there. So when you brush your teeth, you're like, oh, my pills, let me take my pills. And she has a response here. She
Oh
says,
yeah.
life just usually gets in the way. The spontaneous things of day-to-day life, kids, household.
Yes, and I can definitely see that a lot of times, specifically with parents, like they put their kids first. So it's very common that you'll put your own stuff on the back burner, whatever you plan, because you want to adjust more to make sure your kids have everything. So that's definitely something that we do see. I would definitely just say that if you whatever it is that you're planning to do, right, whatever the plan is, if you keep it somewhere that you can execute with something that you're already going to do. Like, so even if you were dealing with your children or the household stuff, every day before bed you have to take off your contacts, or every day in the morning you have to do something, like try to schedule around that, the non-negotiables, because there are some non-negotiables that you have to do, right? And they're either already part of your plan or something. And that's something that I try to work with my clients. Like let's list all the things that you like, whether you're busy or not, you have to do it. Like whether you're busy or not, you have to put on your contacts in the morning, because if not, you can't see. There's no way around that. So that's where we start. It's like, okay, let's identify those. And when you find a non-negotiable that kind of allows space before or after, maybe you can use that as your time. Or like I said, like um, you create those little like habits. Like for me, it's snacking. I always go get a snack, right? And this stems from the fact that my blood sugar will drop if I don't. Like, so I was like, I need to go. I'm constantly snacking. But when I do, it's like, okay, what did I say I was going to do? While I eat my snack, that's where I execute the plan, right? Like, let me piggyback off of this non-negotiable to try to execute a plan that I already had in place, because it already broke the trajectory that I was already on. Instead of getting lost doing XYZ thing that I was already doing, like let me try to work on this.
There's another question. It says, Chris, when can a person wake up with anxiety starting in the stomach and moving to my chest area? I do breathing exercises till I fall asleep again. So it sounds like she's waking up in the middle of the night.
Mhm.
And she's asking if this could be anxiety. It starts in her stomach and it moves to her chest area. And that she does breathing exercises. So it sounds like she's got some pain.
It does. And it is possible, actually. I do see anxiety manifest in GI symptoms. So, like tummy troubles is like one of the number one, like across the board. Someone has some form of like tummy response. That's where you have like the stress eaters, you have the people that avoid eating due to stress. They lose their appetite just completely because of stress. So it's in some form or other. Now, if you do have like some form of like discomfort in your stomach, and sometimes it starts there, and when you wake up and you start like, I think one of the clients that I've had actually was like, once I know it's happening, that's where it moves. Like where they like, because now they're conscious, they woke up, and they're like, so then it starts to reach their chest, because like, okay, like now I'm more concerned. Now it's becoming a little more apparent to them, and that's where it starts. Now the kind of breathing exercises that you do can really help with that. I definitely recommend box breathing. It's where you breathe in for 4 seconds and you hold it for 4 seconds. Then you breathe out for 4 seconds. And then you hold that for 4 seconds. So it's just in a box. In, hold, out, hold.
And Norma has a comment. She says, I feel like I take so much on before I make time for myself, and then I'm stressing over everything I schedule myself with. Afterwards, I feel proud of myself that I accomplished everything on the schedule, but I'm beyond exhausted. I find it hard to say no to extra things I really didn't need to take on.
So this is another pattern of behavior. I would definitely like look into ideas of maybe like people pleasing or not putting yourself first, and that can actually start from childhood, where someone told you to not be selfish or something like that, when in reality you were just setting a boundary for yourself. So we would definitely look into like healthy boundary setting. I'm very glad that you're getting to the point where you're able to actually get everything done, right? You know, you're meeting your goals, and that you're feeling proud of yourself, because you should feel proud of yourself. But you should also feel proud of yourself for progress, not just completion. Like perfection is not the only thing you should celebrate. So let's say you had 8 things on your list and you did 2. You at least did 2. Like you should celebrate the 2 things that you did, right? And try to balance that. Now, saying no to extra things is not a bad thing. You have to be realistic with your boundaries and say, hey, you know, as much as I would love to help right now, I don't have capacity for that. And a good way to respond without saying no is responding with what you can do, right? So if Sharon said, hey, Chris, you know, I really need help with this today. And it's like, you know what, Sharon, I can help you with that tomorrow. Like I have time tomorrow for that. You don't have to say no, and you don't owe anyone explanations, but you know, this is what I have available to offer. If that works for you, it works for me, right? And
Yeah.
then you can go with that. You don't have to be that, because I think that we have this stigma around being the person that says no, and being the person that rejects helping, or perceive that we just don't want to help. But it's not that. You know, you have to be very honest with yourself, and whatever you have time for and what's on your plate is already enough, I'm sure. You know, because we're all just trying to get through it together. You know what I mean? So we all have our own story that we're the main character of, and trying to really get through the challenges that only we face, right? So we've got to be respectful with each other about that. And I think that when you meet people with terms of like, hey, this is what I can offer, as opposed to just saying no, I think that really puts the conversation back to a respectful place of it's not that I don't want to help you. Like I also have my own things.
That was a different perspective, Norma. Everybody has pretty much, uh, sort of discussing the opposite side, but now you're talking about, now I'm actually saying yes, yes, yes to everything. And now
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling overwhelmed. So there's always two sides, of the coin that kind of, can cause overwhelming. And B responded to you, Christopher, saying, yeah, that's what she's doing, that box breathing stuff.
Okay, and I'm glad that you actually already got that into a practice, but that it could be anxiety. It could be from the anxiety. Now, definitely, like I said, like anything, I would speak to your medical provider about maybe any GI or cardiovascular health issues. If you have any concerns with that, if you have any history of having cardiovascular issues. We also, I mean, just from my experience in nursing, the chest pressure can also be caused by gastritis, right? So if you're having like actual gastrointestinal issues that could be building up, the fact that if this is at night and you're laying down, these are all normal indicators of possibly having like acid reflux, things like that. So it's something I would definitely discuss to your provider about that, and it could be both. You're, like I said, they're not mutually exclusive. Your anxiety could be agitating it, and then go from there. Okay, so then yeah, if you're already checked all that, then definitely the next step that I would discuss with you as a psych provider would just be more of like finding the origin of the stress, finding the origin of the anxiety. And I think that's something that people assume, they one of the not silly questions, but I think that as people, we're just like, well, what has you so worried? Why are you so anxious? And it's like, well, if they knew, they wouldn't be so anxious, right? Like so like I definitely want to dispel the stigma that like that like, oh, like people just know. Like people don't always know what is causing the anxiety or
Mhm.
what has them so worked up. And I think that's one of the walls that we've reached. The first wall you reach with someone who's struggling with any of this is that we expect them to have all the answers. And it's like, well, if they could spoon feed me all the answers, then they wouldn't be here dealing with this. They would know exactly what to do.
Larissa has a question. She says, what's a good way to relieve stress headaches? I have major migraines that last for days to the point that I can't walk. I've always been told it's anxiety and stress.
So one of the things that I see that has helped a lot with patients that deal with physiological symptoms with anxiety, and I'm glad that you brought it up like this because the whole headaches things really help, is temperature. So cryotherapy and cessation overload. So if you get an ice pack and put it to your forehead, and if it's anxiety related, like anxiety, stress related, or even before a panic attack starts, you can actually prevent that from happening using the cold, that cold sensation. It can break that, right? It's just a sensorium interruption, just because the cold is just so strong. Now, other things I've used for migraines is dipping your feet in warm water or hot water in the tub, but only your feet. Like, don't throw your whole body into a shower. Just the feet, right? So that way, there's a huge difference between like what your head and your brain are feeling versus what your feet are feeling, right? And it's just sensorium interruption. Now, let's say you're out in public and you can't always do these kind of things. Sour candies have actually lately come into like this popularity as helping. I've had clients that they are like, oh my God, this helps so much. And I was like, well, it's the same thing, just in your mouth, right? So I don't know if you're a sour candy fan, but if you're ever dealing with these kind of stress, anxiety episodes, that if it's episodic and you realize like, oh, this is going to be a lot, and it's coming, and because you can sometimes feel like it building up, that'll help kind of break that, because it's just such a strong sense and it disrupts any senses that you're having. If you've had a really strong sour candy, it's gonna really definitely reset that for you. And I got this practice from when my sugar would be dropping. I would eat a Jolly Rancher because my mom would do that. Right? It's hereditary. I get it from my mom, and she would just pop a Jolly Rancher and she'd be good. She'd go about her day. So I started doing that with sour candies, and it actually worked. It worked with a lot of my clients. So just a little something you can carry in your back pocket if you're everywhere and you can't just, pull out an ice pack that's already ready, or you're not readily available to have like a shower right there to dip your feet in. That could help.
I'm going to try those sour candies because I also suffer from migraine headaches. And I'm going to try those. I'm interested in trying those sour candies and see how they work out. Larissa, I do occipital nerve blocks. So if you're ever interested in trying that, there are injections that go kind of like at the occiput, the base of your scalp. If you're interested in trying those are really good for migraine headaches. They're for people who have headaches right at the base of the scalp and have tension in that area. Message me and I can help you with that. Let me see. She has another comment here. She says, definitely need to try the sour candy. Laugh out loud, not too much. Sharon might tell me otherwise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Disclaimer: anybody
We
out
won't
there
say
with
we
it?
won't say why,
Yeah.
but I
Yes.
said I'm even willing to try the sour candies because I suffer from migraine headaches too. So hey,
I mean,
definitely
doesn't
something that
mean
you not
does
the
not
whole
mean
bag,
you. Yeah,
one
you
or
don't have to
two.
finish the whole bag of sour warheads. I probably would. I walk around.
I will too. I'm an all or none kind of gal. One or two is not going to do much for me. All right. So Danny says, that's such a real thing. I don't have the answers for what's making me feel this way. I started asking my husband just to be present when you see me this way. I don't like to be asked what's wrong. That's been a big help for these moments when my body is reacting to what my mind isn't aware of yet.
Okay, so this actually brings up a really good thing that I would. I'm loving the interaction, by the way. Everyone that's tuning in, thank you so
I'm
much. This
telling
is
you, we have
awesome.
great viewers.
Yes, this is awesome.
They're always showing, they're engaging. They really are.
Yes, because this is always giving me this like, aha, okay, let's talk about this. So one thing that I talk about that really helps folks is specifically with partners, which is why when you brought up your husband, I was like, yes, is do you need support or do you need answers? Right. So you start off your interactions with that whenever you're facing something, and that'll be a game changer, right? Because a lot of people might not know what kind of person they are. We have like people that are great listeners that will offer no answers to what you're saying, what you're bringing to the table, but they'll hear you. And sometimes that's all they need. To a fault. Like I'm that person that's like, I'm already like looking for solutions, and it's like, babe, I just needed a shoulder, right? I just needed someone to hear me out, to be present, right? And vice versa. Sometimes like I don't need the answers. Like I just need someone to hear me. Or sometimes I do need answers. Like I'm really coming to you because I have no idea what to do next. And I need someone else's input, or just maybe that just to hear another person get to the same conclusion that I did without feeling like I'm the only person that thought of it. Maybe I'm. So when you're in that situation that maybe you don't feel like you have the capacity to answer all the questions of what's wrong or whatever, you can start with just like, hey, I really just need some support right now. And that can be in physical support. You have like some people like physical touch, like hugs or cuddles or just holding hands and just physically present. Or that could just be as simple as just being in the room, just to not be alone, even if you're not engaging. People don't realize that being able to be silently in the room, specifically with your partner, is actually a very healthy thing, right? Because
Absolutely.
it shows that you don't have to make up the dead space in the air, that you're not, that like your bond is actually close enough without you feeling like, oh, I gotta put on the show, I gotta put on this, like conversation, that you can literally just be in your own space. And and that's something it's healthy. It's healthy just to be able to say, hey, can you just be here with me, like, and then you can interact at your own pace, right? Once you feel like you kind of come out of what's making you feel either anxious or down or anything like that, and slowly start to unwrap that, as opposed to maybe other interactions that might cause them to start digging. And I know I'm a digger. I'll be like, well, what's wrong? Talk to me. Let's go. And I got to stop and be like, wait, give me some space. I'll go get you some food. I come from that kind of family. I thoroughly believe that food fixes everything. So I'm like, I'll go get you a snack, something. So I
I'll
hope
get
that
you some
helps.
sour gummies.
Yes. Some sour gummies. I might share my Twizzlers with you.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, we're on every night at 8 o'clock p.m., Danny. So we have all medical topics. We have a variety of uh, of special presenters that come on, and so Chris is a special presenter that came on tonight, and hopefully he'll come back again and present another topic. So yes, we're all medical topics. So yeah,
Mhm.
join us every Wednesday at 8 p.m. We're here. Thank you for joining us. And B says, Sharon and Chris, thank you so much for all the good information. You're very welcome.
You are welcome. I love this, and this is interesting, just because I know for me, like I do feel that, like, even as professionals, even in the field, like people don't realize sometimes, like we're not perfect. Like I very much have my own anxiety things,
Yep.
my own stuff. Yeah, and that's just one of those. Just the same way doctors can still have blood pressure and diabetic issues and all that. Same way, and it's funny because like so. in my personal life, I was like, I'm in a polyamorous relationship. I have two partners, and one is neurotypical, one is not. Right. So the other one's just as ADHD as I am. So we're always back and forth, and it's just like the constant loop of conversation. And it's funny because we can literally switch from one to another topic and not finish any of the things we were talking about. Right. And then that's where with the other partner, they're very much grounding and kind of more of like, hey guys, we really needed to focus on XYZ thing. And it's like, so sometimes your differences or can be strengths, right? And that's one of the things I very much talk about relationships in my practice, and like how, you can play off of each other's strengths, right? And you can take that from each other. So but there is a common misconception that just like everything is perfect or like that, like as providers, that we're just like, oh, you must be sound on everything. I was like, oh no, baby, I'm my own flavor of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It's okay. It's just,
There you go.
you just get that. You got to get with, where your flavor matches their flavor and everything
Well, we're
works.
experts because we have the most problems.
Yeah, we're over there telling ourselves our own stuff, and that's why I should say, like, I love that, the that your listeners have brought it up, like the whole, like, the family concepts, like the relationship stuff. I
Yes.
mean, and even like, how talking about like putting our kids first, and then like, it brings up the situations where like a lot of the things that we go through is because we try to um put other people first. So one of the big things I can say about anxiety and mental health is just that, like, it's not selfish for you to take a minute for yourself and just say, hey, like, I got to focus on me. Because, just like you're on the plane, what do they always tell you? Like, put on your oxygen mask first,
Yes.
right? Because if not, you're no good to anybody else. So
Yep.
you can't help anybody. So I think one of the things, as we go through the concepts that I'm listening, that your listeners are bringing up, is family and relationships, and it's a beautiful thing. I think that, like, it's out of love. We love to put others first. But when it comes to your mental health, you really have to take just a minute just to really say, hey, you know what, this is for me. And it's not selfish. You're not a bad person. You're not, putting anybody else last or whatever. It's, you take care of yourself so that you can show up every day as the best
Absolutely.
mother, father, spouse, for the other person that you're trying to walk through life with or make a life for.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. All right, we've hit about an hour, so let's put up your flyer and give
Mhm.
some information again about your business so that if people want to contact you or they have questions, they want to solicit your business, how can they do so, Chris? And give some information about your credentials again.
Sure. So I am a licensed professional counselor associate and master of psychology. I'm currently being supervised by Dr. James Wittenberg, PhD, LPC supervisor. Um, I have my own practice, CJHV Psychology. That's literally just my initials. I have a long name, so to make it easier. The website is cjhvpsychology.square.site, and this is actually something you can find on an app. I find it easier for folks with this because you can just get on the app, on the Square app, and look me up, and you can book right then and there, just as simple as booking a haircut, right? The good part about it is that it'll send you the consent forms immediately once you book, even if you're just booking like the phone consultation, just so you can actually have that, and have all the consents ready so that we could just jump right into it, and that won't have to eat into your actual therapy time, right? Because
Okay, perfect.
a lot of folks end up doing that the first visit and lose half an hour on signing forms instead of actually getting treatment. So I always thought that part was silly, and I wanted to find a way that goes around it. With the Square site, you can also book, like I said, the free consultation. So I offer a free consultation to anyone that wants to book a 15-minute free call, and we can talk about what your goals are, what you're going through, what your questions you may have, and see if this is a good fit. And that's also part of it, is that we got to see that we're a good fit for each other, just to
I
see
agree with that.
maybe if I can help you get through what you're going through and get towards your goals, that's great. And if I'm not the one that you feel can get you there, maybe we can find someone that will. It's a team sport. My mom used to always say healthcare is a team sport. She worked in the hospital forever. And healthcare is a team sport. I try to bring that into my everyday and remind people that healthcare is a team sport. We're all in it together. And I might not be for everyone. And if I am for you, great. And if not, like, let me refer you to someone I know that's great.
Sure. What about payment sources? What are you accepting as far as payment?
Right now, I am pending to get credentialed for like the credentialing process has already started. I'm waiting for them to allow me to take insurance, and that's what I mean
Okay.
by
So you're
credential.
doing cash.
So right now it is private pay,
Okay.
and Square does allow has like an afterpay option, so folks can actually pay and then pay that in their own installments.
You got it. Okay. Sounds good. Alrighty, guys. So this is Christopher, and this is how you can book appointments or ask any questions that you need to ask for him. All right, Christopher. Well, thank you for visiting us today. I appreciate you, and I'd love to have you on again in the near future with perhaps other topics. Do you want to say a last few words to the people before we end our show tonight?
Sure, it was awesome. Thank you for having me. I thought this was great, and I would, like I said, I would love we could just have like a tea time and just come in and just start talking, and let the comments and the questions flow. But yeah, anything that you want to bring me back for, it's always a yes. I'll come hang out and we'll chit chat. Thank you, everybody that was listening. Though I want to say, like, the engagement is the best, honestly, because that's what allows for the conversation to keep going. And
Absolutely.
really,
Yeah.
if this is for y'all, so when people engage, you kind of let us know what we're talking about. Because I can just, like I said, I already told y'all like multiple times, I'm a talker. I'll just come up here with just start talking. So you gotta guide me somehow of what you want to hear. But anytime that you want me to come back, I'll come talk your ear off.
Sounds good to me. All righty, guys. Thank you. I am Sharon Moreno, Family Nurse Practitioner, and this is Christopher Hinojosa. And we are Gold Rush House Solutions, and this is Anxiety. We'll see you next week at 8 o'clock p.m. Thank you. Good night.
Night.